friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. My name is Ashley, and if you've seen any other one of my laser unboxing videos, you are telling yourself right now, gosh, Ashley Falco, you do not need another laser. But hear me out. The laser that I'm unboxing with you today is a UV laser. I don't have any of those in this craft room as we speak until today. And I can tell you right now, if you're in the hunt for a laser engraver, we need to stop and watch this, because the results of the things I'm about ready to show you is going to blow your mind. I am so impressed with this laser. I cannot get over how amazing the quality of engravings are. It is mind-blowing. But first, let's talk about UV laser engravers, because what is a UV laser engraver? Now, I'm not going to get too technical with you because I am no scientist. And if you were to Google what is a UV laser engraver, you are going to get a description that is going to confuse you, or at least it confused me. At the end of the day, UV laser engravers can do a wide range of things that a lot of my other lasers that I have here can do, but not as well. But the one highlight feature here is that the UV laser engraver does not use heat in their laser in order to do engraving. Every other laser that I have here in the Craft Castle, CO2 laser, diode laser, fiber laser, and an infrared, all four of those use heat in their laser beams. So if you were to want to, let's say, engrave on ceramics, what happens is your ceramics will crack and or break. Now there's hacks to this, but the quality of the engravings aren't all that amazing. Also, the laser beam itself for a UV laser is the smallest beam possible. So you're gonna be able to engrave things like the back of AirPods. So probably news to you, but you know on the back of the AirPods how you have this really small font right here? This actually isn't printed. It's UV laser engraved. So if you were to think about other things around your house, like let's say this cricket cord, these cricket cords right here, this is not printed. It's UV laser engraved. So when we talk about laser engraving plastics, if you were to do this on any other laser that I have here in the Craft Castle, CO2, diode, infrared, or fiber, because it uses heat, it melts the plastic, causing a whirlwind of other issues and problems. With the UV laser engraver, now you're able to engrave things like this without having any issues, but also super teeny and small because that UV laser beam is it's like the smallest width of any laser engraver out there. And just to give you a little sneak peek about what I'm about ready to show you, because obviously you can tell that I've unboxed this machine because I wanted to test it out before actually posting a video about it, because it sounds like it's too good to be true. And that's kind of where I had to stop and say to myself, wait, let me unbox this by myself, figure out if it's worth talking about, and then we're gonna like revert back. Okay, so just to give you a little sneak peek of everything that I engrave, because I'm gonna show you everything that comes within this box, but I'm also gonna show you the software that I use and everything that I tested. And there is a lot of materials that I tested before ever making this video. So I'm gonna show you that. But anyways, little sneak peek of what I did just to show you the detail of this laser is this right here. Before I stop, I want you to know that the engraving of this is not center. I could have done a better job at centering the engraving, but I really was just testing the capabilities of the laser. So while I do know that the engraving is not center and crooked, we're not gonna look at that. We're gonna look at the quality of the actual engraving itself, okay? Ready? Here we go. I'm just gonna pause this just so you can see and not move it around. This thing right here is like a total of 3 inches wide. I'm gonna put my finger right next to it just so you can see the smallness of this. I'm gonna bring it in because this line right here, hopefully it like focuses on it. There is the smallest little dots on this line, okay? Every single one of these engravings are absolutely perfect. This was done on this laser. And if you don't believe me, I'm gonna show you, because in today's video, I'm gonna unbox this and then I'm gonna show you everything that I engraved for my very first day. Very first trial run, I engraved so many things, you are gonna be mind blown. I can tell you right now that I have never, in the years of owning a laser, it's been 5 years since I've owned my very first laser, I have never gotten quality engravings like this. Never, ever, ever. I am absolutely mind blown. So you're gonna wanna continue watching if you are in the hunt for a laser engraver, because this thing right here is going to blow your mind, just like it did mine. Are you ready? Let's go.
So the box isn't that heavy, it's just really long and kind of awkward. I think it's about 50 pounds, but once you drag it over into the spot that you are going to place it in, I would like to note that the counters that I have on my back wall, my craft castle, is just standard counter widths. So you don't need like a special table if you have counters like me, like in my craft room. But anyways, inside the box, you have a UV guard that is just going to help you see where the engraving is going to be. I'll show you more about that later. You have a ruler, an accessory kits, a small material kit. There isn't a whole lot of testing materials, but they do give you some. A lens, which kind of looks like a camera lens. A lifting table, not quite sure what this is for, but then also a foot switch. Also not quite sure what that's for either. And then some goggles. This is very important because you need to be able to protect your eyes, because this is an open air machine, meaning that you are going to be able to see the laser beam when it's engraving. And so you want to make sure and protect your eyes. Okay, so this laser is going to come in 3 separate pieces. So there is some assembly required. It isn't hard, but I can tell you that the directions in the booklet is kind of poopy. So I'm going to show you how to do it, because I'm probably going to make it easier for you than actually following the booklet directions. So let's assemble this together. Remember those boxes that we unpacked earlier? Grab the box that says accessories on the side of it. That's the one that you're going to want to grab. Inside that box, you're going to have a power cord, a data cable, an alignment bar. It looks like an L. That's just going to help you engrave or line up your engravings nice and straight for later use. You're going to have a bag of screws, a set of Allen wrenches, and a USB-C to USB adapter. Once you have it all taken out of the bag, what you need to do is take out the really long tower looking thing, and you need to put that on top of your laser at the very right. So the top right, just like what I'm doing here. Now what you need to do is take that bag of screws that came with your machine. It's going to look like you have too many screws, and in the directions it doesn't tell you what screws go where, but for this part, you're going to, in that bag, you're going to have like 4 longer screws out of the entire bag. Take those out of the bunch, and you're going to put that into your tower and attach that tower with those long screws into your base. Once you have that done, what you want to do is now take the laser head and put it on that small little platform that's sticking out of that really tall tower. Now this part, you're going to need 4 shorter screws. Remember, you're going to have leftover screws in your pile. That's okay, because we end up using them later. But align that laser tower head just like what you see in the manual. However, the one thing that I would like to note here that I found extremely helpful is there is this dial at the top of the tower. If you manually crank it, it will either go down or up. I would suggest moving it up just so you have a better idea of where these holes are to screw in, just because it's when they ship it so low, it's really hard to get your eyes underneath that, but then also your tool as well. Now, everything else, as far as assembling it, like plugging in the cords and things like that, just follow the manual, because that is actually well written. It's just the where to put the screws and which screws to use. That wasn't well written at all. So remember those extra screws that I told you about? Those go into the alignment bar. That alignment bar is actually really useful to make sure that your blanks, your engraving blanks that you're going to use is going to be nice and straight and centered. It just helps with the engraving process. Obviously, it would just be free flowing, but if you use the screws and we screw it into the base, the frame gets stuck into the base. If you're like me and you're using a computer that doesn't actually have a USB port, I really love the fact that they include one of this USB to USB-C adapters, because I didn't have to go and find one of mine. But now we've gotten to the point where we actually have to set up the software and turn on the laser. So here's the deal about finishing the setup of the ComMarker Omni 1 laser engraver. You have two options of software here. First option is if you have a Windows computer, you can just download their software straight from the USB thing that they include for you. However, if you are a Mac user, which I am a Mac user, I've actually already posted another video of how to install the system called LightBurn into your Mac computer and how to link up the Omni 1 laser engraver to the LightBurn so then we can use it. So that is a totally separate video that you can go ahead and watch. I do strongly suggest that if you have a Mac to watch that video, only because the manual itself does a really terrible job at explaining how to download the software and link it up to your Omni 1 laser engraver. So you want to go and check out that video. All right, now let's get into the fun stuff. Okay, so my very first thing that I engraved was just a random piece of wood that I had in my craft castle. This is just me testing it out for the very first time. I used one of ComMarker's testing things that they gave you, and it's seriously really easy to operate this particular laser, or I guess like any laser. Essentially, you're going to see these dots on my piece of wood. You want to make sure the dots, there's going to be 3 of them, but you're really looking at the 2 red ones. Those 2 dots need to overlap, so I use the buttons at the very front of the machine over on the right to align them up. And then over at the software, the LightBurn software, I did forget to mention that you do need to have LightBurn in order to use the software if you have a Mac computer. I think I forgot to mention that. But anyways, so I use the software to essentially communicate with the laser engraver, and you can kind of see that I have some whitish lines like freaking out on my piece of wood. That's just where the engraving is going to go. So that UV protector light thing that I had shown you earlier, if you hold it up to your engravings, you're going to be able to see it a little bit better. Not a whole lot, but you are going to be able to see it a little bit better. So use that. That thing does come in handy. Once your engraving is in the spot where you want it. Now, this particular engraving, I'm not really too concerned about because it's just a random piece of wood, but I want to make sure that my engraving is on my entire piece of wood. But once you have it where you want it, then what you want to do is grab those goggles that came with your laser engraver. Make sure and protect your eyes because this is an open air laser and you will burn your retinas if you look at your laser while it's engraving without the goggles. Okay, put those on, and then you essentially just send the engraving over to your ComMarker Omni 1, and then you just press start and it goes, and it's extremely quick. Now, most laser engravers will leave this like burn mark, or a charring is what laser users call that, like soot looking thing. This right here left 0 soot. I'm pretty impressed for my very first engraving on this brand new laser engraver. Now for my second engraving, I'm going to do something that is going to look like it's a really expensive engraving, but don't worry, it is a fake pair of AirPods. They are not real. They are super lightweight, but it's the same type of material. The casing is the same type of material as real AirPods. So I'm just going to engrave that. If you've never owned a laser engraver, there's going to be the same steps over and over and over again. Once you've done it once, you're going to keep doing it all over again. So you're going to see that I'm going to line up the 2 red dots to my laser engraver, and then I'm going to insert my engraving onto the software, and then I'm going to press the framing button, and that is where I'm going to be able to maneuver either my engraving or my blank to fit onto where I want to engrave, and then you just engrave. It's the same steps for every single material that you want to engrave. The settings is what changes between the material, but like the setup steps is all the same. Okay, here's the machine engraving the fake AirPod case, and here's the finished engravings on the AirPod. I feel like I probably could have toned down the settings of this. It's a little bit deep, but hey, I actually have an engraving on there, and this is my second engraving. Pretty impressed. The machine says that it can engrave on metal, and I have these like stainless steel Zippo lighters, or just one of them, laying around my craft room. I'm going to try and engrave that. While the engraving took a total of 5 seconds, I'm not really happy with the engraving just because it's super light. So I'm going to try it again and hopefully get better results by adjusting my settings. So here's try 2. It's not terrible, just like the first one. I think I need to make and adjust the settings to make it slower so it just engraves a little bit deeper. It's definitely in the stainless steel, but I wish it was a little bit darker. Okay, let's move on to something else. For my next test, I'm going to test a glass ornament. If you've tried to engrave glass on other lasers, like a diode laser, you will know that this is finicky. Generally, you have to put some like dish soap over the top of it to spread and distribute the heat so you don't explode the glass. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to throw it right underneath this laser, and we are going to see what the quality of engravings are. Hopefully, it also doesn't blow up in my face. We shall see. That engraving took a total of 53.3 seconds. You will see that on the bottom of my plate that I did put down a piece of black paper. That's because I wanted to protect my base thing. Joke's on me because I'm about ready to ruin it. But anyways, I'm just going to clean up the glass. Now there's a little bit of black. I think that picked up from the cardstock. So the next time I do this, I think I'm going to put down a white piece of cardstock. But look at the quality of this engraving. It's not hot at all. There's no cracks, no scratches or anything like that. This thing, I have never engraved on glass before and had it turn out this amazing. I'm shook. Okay, for my next test, I am going to test out a sheet of metal. I am going to engrave it, but I'm also going to attempt to cut this out. Now, I would like to note, ComMarker does advertise the Omni one mostly as a laser engraver. It can cut. It will just take you a really long time. I don't have the patience for long time things. So I actually ended up not getting a cutout of the necklace that I'm trying to make, but I have seen other creators be able to cut the metal. It just does take a long time to cut the metal, and I'm not going to show you that today because I don't want to take a long time. Now, my next thing that I'm going to try is a sheet of cardstock found in my cardstock warehouse. Fun fact about me is, if you didn't know, that I own my own cardstock warehouse, and I'm actually a cardstock crafter by trade. So I'm going to use the UV laser to cut out cardstock. The reason why I'm trying this is because I used to make wedding invitations, and a lot of brides would request these like really intricate cut wedding invites, and I could not do them on my Cricut. And I've tried cutting cardstock on my other lasers that use heat, like the diode or CO2 laser, and it leaves this like charring and burning mark all over the cardstock, making it not cute. And we want cute things for our brides. So I am going to attempt to make something with the UV laser. Hopefully it turns out really good. And this is where I mess up my base plate, but whatever the case may be, look at the way that this ended up cutting. It turned out really good. Now I'm going to try something really intricate to see what it's capable of. In a previous video, I made a shadow box, which had really intricate cuts. I just used the same SVG file to cut it out on the UV laser. Now, obviously, it is not perfect. I need to adjust the settings and figure it out more. But do you see the details in those cuts right there? You would never be able to get that on any other machine. Also, zero charring, zero smoke, zero soot. This thing looks gorgeous. I also engraved a coaster. Didn't turn out too bad for my very first try at this thing. I went back to cutting metal because I I just want to verify for myself that it does in fact cut metal. It does. And the one thing that I do love about this is that because it's a UV laser, it does not create any type of heat. So when I tried to cut metal on my fiber laser, the metal warped really bad, and I was able to cut a circle out of this metal, and it's a really small circle, and there's zero warping on the metal, and that's because there's no heat with the UV laser. It did take forever, so just know that. But I did get a good, clean, solid cut circle out of the metal. Okay, and this is just a friendly reminder that even me, someone that would be quote unquote an expert at laser engravings, we don't get everything all in one shot. So I tried to engrave a porcelain plate many times to get some really decent settings. Definitely takes a little bit of getting used to a whole new laser machine. Anyway, so this is me engraving porcelain plates multiple times, and I just want to pause and give you a real-time reaction of what exactly I was thinking as I was creating.
Probably the most gorgeous thing I have ever seen as an engraving. Oh my word. Why are you so pretty? Oh my gosh.
Wow, I'm just absolutely blown away. Holy cow. I mean, look how small of a print that is. Just so we can get a size reference on how this entire engraving is 1.38 inches wide. Those little engravings, I have never in my life seen an engraving so good before on a laser. Just unbelievable. Wow, I'm freaking blown away.
Now I need to know what your opinions are of this laser engraver after watching this entire video. I can tell you right now that everything that I did was absolutely mind-blowing. However, this thing right here is, to me, the biggest showstopper of them all. With this thing right here, I can get cuts like this. Maybe I'll go back to selling wedding invitations again, because these cuts right here are absolutely phenomenal. It just, oh, it makes my mouth drool. It's so delicious. All right, y'all, I sure hope I inspired you to create and convinced you that maybe you need one of these in your craft castle, because this thing right here impressed me. And to be honest with you, it takes a lot to impress this lady nowadays. I will see you on the next video.